What is one person's junk can be someone else's treasure. That saying sums up the reason behind several thousand residents jamming Garrett Coliseum in Montgomery today. 28 years ago, the Junior League, a women's civic organization, held its first rummage sale. It has grown into the state's largest sale of discarded collectibles. With inflation on the rise, yard, rummage, and garage sales have become a way to beat high prices.
We have a guideline that we have gone by for the last number of years. Our rummage is brought in and marked good, fair, and excellent. And since we're in competition now with a lot of the stores, cheaper stores in town, we have to keep our prices in line less than theirs. And we have real good items, brand new items in fact. And you could buy anything, we think dirt cheap.
This year, the Junior League sale included a Christmas and craft shop. And there's no doubt that from the turnout, many residents purchased most of their holiday gifts. Paul Roth, WSFA TV News.
We're going to be in business.
We've known growth since we've been here for the last decade. Enrollment this year was close to 4,800, up over some 4,400 last year. We hope that the students are coming to us because we are providing a quality educational program here, and we think maybe that will continue for the foreseeable future at any rate. Of course, we have housing on campus for the first time, and that has had some influence on it as well.
.77 yards for the touchdown. The Chargers went on.
Well, we're looking for what we call the appropriate technology community, the backyard inventors, the people that have developed solar installations for their own use. What we're trying to do is make sure that we have input from everyone that has good ideas in solar energy, so we can furnish that input into the planning process for both the Southern Solar Energy Center in Atlanta as well as the State Solar Energy Center here in Alabama.
Has solar power been taken more as a great alternative, the possible answer to our problem?
It depends who you talk to. We've always been fans of solar power. Any energy future for this country has to have solar power in it to a great extent. I wouldn't say that we're taking it more now than before. It's just that the public is more interested in solar power now than before.
Coming down that railroad track. It's that orange blossom facial bringing my baby back. Woo! Well, I'm going down to Florida, get some sand down in my shoes. Maybe California, get some sand down in my shoes. Ride that orange blossom facial.
The present situation is Judge Varner's release of prisoners from the Montgomery County Jail called the attention of the public to the problems that are facing the county commission and the jail administrators in Montgomery County, and to the seriousness of the nature of their problem.
What do you think needs to be done beyond this order of Judge Varner?
The county commission needs to undertake the building of a new jail facility that will house a sufficient number of prisoners to meet the county's needs.
Well, it's difficult to say how the gasoline supply is going to be. I personally think that we'll have adequate supplies of gasoline for the rest of the year, but I don't think we'll have abundant supplies. So I think we can get through the winter if the public will be a little conservative in their driving. As far as heating oil goes, the program that the Department of Energy and the oil companies have been working on to build up heating oil supplies appears to be in good shape, and I believe we'll have plenty of heating oil for the winter.
are now encountering the difficulty of receiving the necessary books, registration books, and the decals that go with the current year's registration system, that we are, we're embarrassed at this particular point in time for receiving those necessary items for the judges of probates. We are looking forward that now, within the next 2 weeks, we hope that we'll have some books and some decals that we can offer out to the judges of probates and the License Commissioner's office.
The announcement is simply this, that now for a year, we've been talking about proration of the 1978-79 education school budget. It has real serious problems on this month because it certainly starts off at zero, and what we refer to as flow-through money will not be there. In the past, when school boards present their budget and have them approved in this week, first week in October, we normally gave them a check which covered the September operations. That will not be possible this time. Because of the budget being spent to zero and even below, the flow-through amount of money the state provides the local systems will be slow in coming.
It's a thing that everybody does, but it's a conditioning program that we open up to the public, but mainly basketball players take part in it, and it's getting them ready for the start of the season. They're enthusiastic about it.
What does the program consist of?
Well, all it is a conditioner, and by NCAA guidelines, you have to open it up to the public or to the student body, and it consists of running, stretching, and injury-preventive things and conditioning exercises.
Students back on campus now, what does the squad look like? What kind of shape are they in?
Well, they're all eager, and they're all physically in good shape, and they are back with enthusiasm, so they look good, and I'm very happy to have them back on campus. We'll just have to wait and see what they can do.
Herman Harris says in his 4 years as a councilman he has gotten community development funds to correct some drainage problems, but he'd like to continue trying to correct others. He also says he has helped bring water and sewage services to neglected parts of his district and has had several streets paved. Harris says he's concerned about the city's crime rate and he wants to work for more recreational facilities. He says a councilman must give a little and take a little in order to get benefits for his district. Harris is 52 years old, married, and has 8 children. He's an organizational specialist for the Alabama Education Association. 45-year-old Cap Grace says city youth have been neglected. He'd like to get federal funds to provide parks and summer jobs for young people. He also says he's worried about what he says is an alarming increase in the number of crimes committed by blacks on black victims. Grace says no council members have addressed the black-on-black crime issue and that they all seem more concerned with ditches than with human lives. Grace is an archives technician at Maxwell Air Force Base. He's married and has 8 children. Warren McDaniel says he's running for a council post because he wants to take the power away from the mayor and put it back where he says it belongs, in the hands of the police and fire chiefs. He says the children in the district should come first, and he wants more parks for them. He also says he'll work only for the people. McDaniel is a disabled veteran with 4 sons. Attorney Donald Watkins says the residents in the 6th District are victims of robbery by pen. He says that's when councilmen use a pen to sign away community development funds. Watkins says hundreds of thousands of dollars intended for poor areas in the city have gone to richer neighborhoods. And he says a lawsuit filed by District 3 Councilman Joe Reed proves that one man can make a difference in where money is spent. He claims that suit is holding up the distribution of $11 million in government aid. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
This is where the two corrections officers caught up with Lee Barnes Rivers yesterday afternoon, a couple of hundred yards away from the middling exit of I-85. According to prison officials, these are the events that led to Rivers' death. He allegedly charged the two officers armed with a piece of drive shaft and a 2.5-foot iron rod. 2 warning shots were fired by the officer that was armed. Rivers continued toward them. A 3rd shot was fired, striking him in the arm. He kept running. A 4th shot was fired, hitting him in the shoulder. He continued toward them. A 5th shot was fired, it missed him, and then a 6th shot was fired, hitting him somewhere in the chest. He then reportedly ran a couple of more steps and then collapsed. Rivers' death prompted a joint news conference by the Southern Poverty Law Center, the American Civil Liberties Union, and the Alabama Prison Project.
And we have sent a letter to the governor today asking that an independent investigation outside of state government channels, outside of the Board of Corrections, be made into this killing.
Prison spokesman John Hale says Commissioner Robert Britton has in fact already asked for an investigation.
He asked prior to noon today, had already asked the county, he had discussed it with District Attorney Jimmy Evans, and he's asked that the grand jury investigation be made of this incident.
It's not known how long it will take to complete the investigation into the death of Lee Barnes Rivers. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News.
The jurisdiction that we're now policing is the old police jurisdiction that the new city limits is. So we think that we're going to be able to give the people in the neighborhood a little bit more patrol service. You know, in the past we've had to stick mainly to the calls that we receive and the business places that we're having all the burglaries. But as you know, a burglar knows no difference in a place of business and a home, and he just soon go in either one of them. So we think we're going to be able to answer some of those problems, have a solution to some of them, we hope.
Governor James departed Danley Field Monday morning in time to attend a program dealing with energy. The Southern governors heard from representatives of the coal, oil, and nuclear industries, as well as the Federal Department of Energy. Carl Bragg, president of the National Coal Association, told the governors that federal regulations on his industry are too strict. He called on the governors to use their influence to make changes in Congress and its regulations. Carl Walski, president of the Atomic Energy Forum, says atomic energy will remain an important part of the total energy picture. He said in light of the 3 Mile Island incident, he would not comment on government regulations. In contrast, Department of Energy representatives told the governors that they have helped. Evidently, most of them did not agree. Near the end of the session, more and more of the governors, including James, were saying that the Department of Energy should be scaled down. According to James, we ought to cut the guts out of the Department of Energy. Tomorrow, Governor James is scheduled to attend sessions on education and workfare. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News, with the governor in New Orleans.
The court action attacks the way rural land is taxed in Montgomery County. The suit charges that a 1978 Alabama law states the owners can choose between being taxed at current values rather than fair market value. The persons bringing today's legal actions charge that the county is illegally charging the same taxes for both the fair market value and the current use values. Montgomery attorney Walter Chandler says his clients are being charged double what the law says they should pay in land taxes.
In Montgomery County, for instance, the land values are extremely high, acquisition cost, fair market value, but current use value is the same for a farmer or for a man who has cows, one has a pasture. Based on what we can determine, the county is charging at the present time as high as $780 an acre assessed value for regular agrarian land, and the highest value that we can come up with for current use value is $312 an acre. So we're talking about almost 3 times the tax base.
If the plaintiffs in this suit are successful, it could have several serious consequences for Montgomery County Services. It could mean refunds for persons owning over 10 acres of rural land and millions in tax losses to Montgomery County. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
Come out tonight to a town meeting. This is the first time we have tried civic group or that civic group. For instance, in August, did a swing through what we have got to do, in my opinion, and I very firmly support the Kemp-Roth bill that was going to reduce individual income taxes 10% per year or 11% per year for 3 years to give you a total break of 1/3 less, because there's one school of economists, and I happen to subscribe to this thinking, that says if you will reduce and take the onerous burden off the taxpayer, the producer, the guy that's working, to give him the incentive to go out and work, he will work, he will earn more, he will pay more taxes. This will turn over subsequently. And by reducing taxes, you can increase the total tax to the federal government. And that's what it's all about.
Ellis Hannon, an assistant attorney general, helps run the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office. He says they're handling about 600 requests a month from consumers asking for information and assistance. Since the first of the year, over $500,000 in consumers' money has been saved through court action and intervention by his office. Recently, their main concern has been price gouging and unscrupulous business practices in Mobile following Hurricane Frederick. Their temporary office there has been deluged with complaints. Alabama is the only state in the union without a consumer protection law. One of their key projects is to get such a law passed.
The Attorney General's office this last session put a great deal of effort into getting a consumer protection bill passed. However, the bill was not passed in the 78 session and in the 79 session. And in the coming legislative session, I believe it will be one of the chief legislative projects of the Attorney General's office.
If you have a complaint, you may call the Consumer Protection Office in Montgomery at 832-9536 or call their toll-free number, 1-800-392-5658. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News.
They're what we call a hard dive team, a counter option team. We call it a G loaded, where they pull a guard, load the end with the back, and get the quarterback out there, pitch or keep, a quick pitch. They do a lot of things. The whirly bird option, we call it. They do a lot of things well running the ball. They have a lot of fine blocking schemes, and they'll just try to find creases in your defense. And then when you adjust from the secondary to stop their option game, they play action pass where you come from. So they're very smart, very well coached team. They're a possession team, a ball control, and they're going to run the ball at you if they can and see how you adjust to stop them and take advantage of that. Very good on defense, so that's what some people forget about. They have some great athletes on defense, probably the fastest guys that we'll play against this year on defense.
we've eliminated one of the processes in the tag line. We don't have the transfer line this year. The transfer line is done at the time your tag receipt is written. If you purchased a car in the last year and have to transfer it, when you get your initial tag receipt, it's transferred at that time.
Okay, so the process, you've eliminated one step, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now tell me about the people who are mailing their tags in. How's that going?
We're running well ahead of last year in the mail tags. We're about 5,000 ahead of what we were at this time last year. The response has been good, and we certainly hope it gets better.
I have been in the simulator.
The atmosphere of the classroom is very good here, so we have to change the classroom, the atmosphere of classroom, many things.
What is the atmosphere there?
Very easygoing, or free talking. And
here?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have the more strict atmosphere in the classroom.
This is the second time within a year Elise Reynolds and another District 7 candidate have run for City Council. Mrs. Reynolds has only been on the council for 9 months. She won the seat in a special election last year when Larry Dixon left the council to become a state legislator. Now that she's spent those months learning the job, she says she wants to put her knowledge to work. Since her district in south central Montgomery is one of the older areas, she's concerned about drainage problems and street lighting and resurfacing. She also wants more neighborhood watches and police visibility to prevent crime. Mrs. Reynolds is 44, married, and has 2 children. She says her accessibility is one of her strong points. She says she can take the time to deal with citizen complaints and investigate zoning matters. 49-year-old Tom Jones says potholes and street resurfacing shouldn't be election issues, but should be done daily. He thinks the District 7 representative should be concerned with what he calls more important issues, such as his suggestion to change the Floyd Elementary polling place to the Normandale Library. He's also concerned about annexation. He thinks it will mean additional expenses for the city, and he wants to see that that money is well spent. Jones also wants the city to step up crime prevention efforts and start a study of solar energy. He's a salesman in a department store, married, and has 4 children. He ran unsuccessfully for the District 7 seat last year. The third District 7 candidate, Farrell Dillard, was unavailable for filming. He's a 63-year-old retired state labor mediator, a position he says helps qualify him to be a councilman. He also says government business should be open and accessible to the public. Tomorrow I'll have profiles of all the candidates in District 8. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News. The Housing Authority says none of the 41 claims for unemployment compensation is valid because the strikers left work without good cause and so were fired. The referee has thrown out 6 of the claims and ruled that the others are partially invalid. The decision means that the Housing Authority may have to pay a total of $62,000 in unemployment compensation. But the Housing Authority is appealing that decision, saying that's almost $28,000 more than it should have to pay. The question will go to the Industrial Relations Appeals Board, and from there it could go to Montgomery Circuit Court. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Coach Gibbs says it's because we're not athletes. So I guess if we're not athletes, then we have to pick it up in some other area, and probably that's why we're so much better looking than the rest of the players.
I think you're right. If you're playing offensive line, you got to have something going for you.
I think maybe Guy planned it that way because he knew we wouldn't get much of the glory or anything else. Maybe he wanted us to at least maybe have the girls or something, right?
Well, I think the reason that we're so much better looking than them is because we work hard at it.
Well, I guess it's because our coach isn't as handsome as the rest of the coaches.
You have to make up for him?
Yeah, we have to make up for our coach.
Oh, you're in trouble, man.
I'll tell you what, Phil, seeing that you probably made up this question at dinner, and it's an ambiguous question to begin with.
You're not an offensive lineman.
I am an offensive lineman, but with those kind of questions which are loaded to begin with, we just, the only reason we're handsome because we work harder than anybody else.
That's true.
I don't have any idea.
I think it has a lot to do with breeding.
We try a lot harder. We spend a great deal of time looking ourselves in mirrors.
Hair
and
dryers,
hair
and all that
dryers, and the whole works.
Seems to work.
It must.
Prices on clothing stay neck and neck with inflation, so the trend for smart buyers is toward investment clothing. For men, it's sticking with traditional styles, avoiding the trendy look, keeping a check, though, on whether ties and lapels are getting wider or slimmer. For women, it's just a bit more difficult. Styles change rapidly. The full-skirted outfit of yesterday is on the outs today. Skirt hems rise or fall. Shirt collars get smaller or change shapes. For some advice on what to buy, we turn to the fashion director of a local department store.
There's no way most people can go out and just buy a new outfit totally. So there is such a thing as investment dressing. What does that mean?
Oh, investment dressing is where you invest in a few good classics that are timeless and ageless. For example, the blazer that you have on, the jacket, is an example of investment dressing. You can take that good navy blue color year-round, add a blouse to capture the mood of the season. And this season, the mood are bright jewel tones, belt your jacket. The accessories can change that good classic look, and the jacket can take you through many years. So that's investment dressing.
What about for a man? What would investment dressing be for him?
Well, you know, men don't change as often as we women change. Men, you'll find that their ties are narrowing a little bit, but men are very hesitant to change, and you'll notice most men can get by many, many years with the same suit.
The trend, then, is toward investment clothing. Clothes of classic lines that will mix and match with the accessories of the day. And in this trend, consumers are spending less of their total budget on clothing and perhaps spending it more wisely.
Saturday on Alabama Illustrated, we'll take a look at the fashions for the current season. Ivy Berman, WSFA TV News.
Earlier this summer, the State Board of Education raised the number of hours an instructor must teach at a junior college. This minimum requirement was challenged by instructors and educators at a state board meeting. Mary Jane Akel, director of the Alabama Education Association's post-secondary division, called on several educators who say the increase in course load for teachers could cause junior colleges to lose accreditation. Dr. Francis French, state president of the American Association of College Professors, says the heavy load could cause difficulty with the state senior institutions and the transfer of credit from junior colleges. Several other educators spoke to the board about changing the requirement to lower the minimum numbers of hours taught. State School Superintendent Dr. Wayne Teague responded by saying loss of accreditation would not be a problem. Board member Marvin Gold told the board he was going to ask it to reconsider the requirements, but the current situation in junior college funding forced him to change his mind. The board voted 6-2 not to reconsider the resolution passed earlier, which raised the teacher load. Governor James, who presided, says he agrees with the board. He says the time is not right to change the requirements, but the state school board should take a look at the matter in the future when more money is available. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Thomas was arrested late yesterday and charged with stealing 2 pistols from a truck on Day Street. Montgomery Police Chief Charles Swindle gives other details in the matter.
And he's one of the 12 that was released last Friday afternoon, about 1:30, I believe. And he's out a day and a half, a couple of days, and he commits his burglary. And we catch him in the act.
Did he have accomplices with him, other persons who were let out early last week?
No, I don't. There were some accomplices with him, but they were not involved in.
Have they been arrested yet?
Yes, they have been arrested.
Chief, does your department have intelligence that other persons who were released last week may already be involved in criminal activity?
Well, we have no direct indication of that. Of course, we always worried that people that commit these repeated crimes will continue to do so. And I just hope that's not the case in the rest of them.
Mr. Thomas's record, I understand, goes back quite a few years.
Yes, he has an extensive juvenile record of same offenses that he was being held on. 4 cases of buying, receiving, and concealing stolen property, and 1 case of burglary and grand larceny that he was being held in the county jail for a trial on. He never had made bond.
On the heels of the rearrest of Thomas, the county may have to release other prisoners in the next 15 days. Federal Judge Robert Varner has ordered Montgomery County officials to show cause why they should not be found in contempt of once again overcrowding the county jail. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at Montgomery Police Headquarters.
38-year-old John Starr has been on the council 2.5 years. He was elected in 1977 when Emery Falmer left the District 8 seat to become mayor. Starr says he's proud of having helped get recreational facilities in his neighborhood, and he'd like to expand those in Crump Park. He also says the Southeast District has serious drainage problems, and he wants to do more street resurfacing. He's married, has 6 children, and is an electrical contractor. Michael Butler is a 33-year-old insurance agent. He thinks people should stop being so concerned about their individual districts rather than the city as a whole. Butler says people don't live in just one district, but they drive on streets in other districts and use recreational facilities in other parts of the city. Butler also thinks his experience as a police detective will help him in dealing with police business as a councilman. He is married and has 1 child. 31-year-old Stuart Frazier says he's running for the council because he thinks District 8 needs a more vocal and visible representative. He's concerned about keeping a tight city budget, but he says he'd like to beef up the police and fire departments and take care of drainage problems. Frazier says many Montgomerys don't realize just how bad the city's drainage system is. Frazier also would like to improve opportunities for recreation in the city as money becomes available. Frazier is the district manager for a cotton company. He's married and has 1 child. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Alabama is faced with a tough job this week. How do you top last Saturday's performance against Vanderbilt? The Tide swept the Commodores out to sea. 66 points scored, 471 rushing yards, 130 passing yards. That's a tough act to follow. Fortunately, the Tide has the perfect encore in Wichita State. The Shockers have an 0-3 slate this year, but as the saying goes, they may be worse than that record indicates. Wichita State is a young team, and no matter how much grunting and groaning Bear Bryant does, the Shockers are not in the same league as Alabama. The only reason they are on the schedule is because of a last-second cancellation with SMU. As with Vanderbilt last week, Bryant is most concerned with preparing his team mentally for the ball game.
You take, you play in Auburn or Tennessee or someone, while the student body, the press, the parents, people at the drugstore, people back home, everybody helps motivate you. Okay. But you play in a team that no one knows a great deal about, well, I'm sure it's difficult.
Going into the game, Wichita State is a decided underdog. They have everything to win and really nothing to lose in the game. Could they come out and throw something at you that you're not expecting?
We don't know what to expect, but we expect them to do something that they haven't done before. We always talk about expect the unexpected, and we expect them to probably use some formation. They've had 2 weeks, and I don't know what to do.
Coach Bryant says he will have his if defense ready. That means if Wichita State does something unusual, it will not be a surprise. Wichita State could also use a big if. The only way they should win is if a miracle occurs. Fred Albers, WSFA TV Sports.
In Alabama could be more adequately addressed than it was being addressed, and we're appreciative of it. You got a word or two for us?
Well, I just wanted to welcome each of you here. You know, the
prior discussion, And that was that no matter what perspective you took on transportation in Alabama, whether you came at it from the point of view of health care in rural areas, service.
That we might try to initiate or at least suggest to whatever body.
One of the things is that more foster parents and have been able to get together, and they've recognized the need of sharing, and I think this conference has helped in starting a state foster parent association, and where the foster parents have been able to, after getting to know one another through conferences and other type programs, that they have formed their own association to make the needs of these particular children known.
The horse was from a breeding ranch on Woodley Road south of Montgomery. At first, doctors didn't know exactly what was wrong with it. None of the usual symptoms of rabies was evident.
After the horse became ill, he was brought here to the animal clinic at Tuskegee Institute School of Veterinary Medicine.
The animal died 3 days later. After an analysis of the brain, the rabies was discovered. The problem now is treating the people who came in contact with the horse. 13 persons at the breeding farm will receive the treatment. Dr. Calvin Dow, Director of Student Health Services at Tuskegee Institute, says as many as 55 people at Tuskegee, both those who had actual contact with the animal and others who are around the clinic, are getting various types of treatment.
If your name is called and you did not receive treatment this morning, you are to report to the small animal clinic conference room with Dr. Allen this afternoon at 3:45 p.m. before reporting to John Anderson Hospital.
The state veterinarian office says there is no rabies epidemic in the vicinity of the breeding farm and no danger to the general public exists. But state health and conservation officers plan to capture some of the wildlife in the area to determine if there is a rabies problem with the animals. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News, Tuskegee.
These figures, it's hard for you to understand.
Goal of 80,879, he now has 31,956, or a percentage of 39 point.
Division A, which I had, now has 51,000. Still got a long way to go. Reporting to date.
Let me have this job. Mike Jenkins' division is ahead of the rest of us.
Well, ours broken down in three also. The one group is headed by Terry McCollum.
Have attained $122,810, or 54.8%. Now, this is a little bit slower than we like to see. We have a couple of organizations that...
Thank you.
Pat Williamson is the only council member who has decided not to run for re-election. The candidates campaigning for her seat spoke to voters at a forum recently. 45-year-old Loretta Bacon says teamwork is the key to city government. She wants to promote more citizen involvement in the city. She thinks involvement is also the key to crime prevention, and she'd like to see more neighborhood watch programs. Mrs. Bacon also is worried about problems with drainage, traffic, and streets and sidewalks, all of which she calls examples of the city's growing pains. Mrs. Bacon is married and has 5 children. Bill Nunn thinks his experiences as a missionary and an insurance agent have taught him to work with people. If elected, he wants to meet with the citizens in his area to determine what priority the problems in District 9 should have. He too is for more neighborhood watches, and he'd like to solve problems such as poor street lighting, lack of good drainage, and traffic congestion. He says he wants to see Montgomery grow, but he wants citizens in all districts to be more involved in their neighborhoods. Nunn is 37, married, and has 2 daughters. Nancy McGee says she's afraid Montgomery could have problems like those in bigger cities if it doesn't have capable leadership. She says Montgomery does have good government under Emery Falmer, and she'd like to continue that. Mrs. McGee thinks citizens need to take an interest in how their tax money is spent. She also says drainage ditches and mosquito control are not election issues, they are problems, and the real issue is how Montgomery will deal with its growth. Mrs. McGee is 46, married, and has 7 children. Marion Schaefer is a retired businessman, so he says he can work full-time as a councilman. He also is concerned about drainage and traffic problems and supports strong police and fire departments. Schaefer thinks the city can deter juvenile crime by improving parks and community programs. Schaefer is married and has 3 children. The city election is Tuesday. New council members will take office in November. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Why, when the vaccine was available last night, did you elect to wait until this morning to start vaccinating when you could have gotten some of this out of the way instead of keep pushing the timetable up?
That's one of the questions asked by Tuskegee veterinary students at the meeting today with the Tuskegee Veterinary School administration. The students are upset with the way the rabies treatment program is being handled. They say it's been taking too long for the treatment to begin. Dr. Calvin Dow, director of the Student Health Services, told them that categories had to be established as to who needed which type of vaccine and how much to prescribe. Then, when not enough vaccine was on hand, more had to be ordered. Dr. Walter C. Bowie, dean of the Tuskegee Vet School, says he is satisfied with the handling of the situation.
In terms of what we've done, I'm quite satisfied that we have handled this very properly, expeditiously, and in keeping with what the State Health Department says we ought to be doing.
But one senior vet student described the handling as sloppy, and another student says it took much too long.
Just a waste of time, as far as I'm concerned, you know. I think they could have remedied the situation and started treatments earlier than what they've done. Here it is Thursday, and they've known about this since Monday.
Treatment was scheduled to continue this afternoon at 4, but after a half an hour, the students in the health center office were still waiting and still grumbling. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News, Tuskegee.
It means he's got the finest fishery staff that money can buy up here. We've got the experience, we've got the people, we've got 18 biologists, 15 of them have a master's degree, and 13 of them have a master's degree, excuse me. And they're highly qualified, and you can't get better talent than what we've got.
Okay, next question, is that going to help the fishing?
You're right. Without that, you don't have a chance of improving the fishing.
What's the most exciting thing going on in that department right now in Alabama?
Right now, the most exciting thing is the saltwater striped bass that we're stocking in fresh water. We're having tremendous success. People are catching them commonly above 20 pounds, and they're good eating fish, they're good sport fish, and there's quite a number of areas in the state that they're caught, and we're producing more of them in our hatchery.
The rabies vaccine treatment for Tuskegee vet students continued late this afternoon and into the early evening. Many of the students were concerned over the length of time it took for the treatments to begin.
I'm kind of really disappointed, you know, because like here it has been the 3rd day since they found out. This is Thursday, and they've been putting us off, and especially there's certain persons in a group 1, what they've categorized in a group 1 situation, where that like myself, I'm in that situation, and I haven't had a shot yet from the Student Health Services.
The students also expressed concern about the overall handling of the procedure. That concern was the center of discussion at a meeting today between vet school students and the vet school administration. Questions were raised over why the vaccine was not administered earlier. The director of the Student Health Services said the situation had to first be analyzed and the correct dosages figured before the procedure could begin. Dr. Walter C. Bowie, dean of Tuskegee's vet school, says he is satisfied with the way the situation was handled. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News, Tuskegee.
There were more complications as a joint session of the Teachers and State Employees Retirement Systems Board met. Employee Board Chairman Governor Fob James announced that due to a Montgomery Circuit Court ruling earlier this week, he had released David Bronner as Finance Director and in his place appointed John Pampanastis. Pampanastis has served as an executive assistant to Bronner in the Finance Director's office. James then recommended to the board that they in turn rehire Bronner as Secretary-Treasurer of the two retirement systems and yet allow him to consult with the governor on fiscal matters. That's where sides formed.
Alabama Education Association Director Paul Hubbard asked and received a separate vote from each board on the matter of taking Bronner back. In the voting, the Employees Board approved Bronner's rehiring, but the Teachers Board split 6-5 against it. The Employees Board then hired Bronner officially, while the Teachers Board broke before meeting in a separate session. In that separate meeting, Hubbard moved to have Bronner appointed only on a temporary basis until a search committee could look at other applicants before making recommendations November 1st. The split came from teacher retirement board members who expressed concern that James could set a dangerous precedent in controlling the board's choice of secretary-treasurer. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News. Governor James asked the board to rehire Bronner as part of his promise that if any problems were incurred in Bronner's dual role, he would turn Bronner loose. But Alabama Education Association Director Paul Hubbard cut that move short by winning enough votes to allow State Employees Board members and Teachers Board members to vote separately.
There will be a lot of people that might feel that Dr. Bronner would be still trying to operate the finance department and the retirement system through Mr. Pappanastis, who's had a long and career with Dr. Bronner.
By the fact of Don Pappanastis being appointed finance director, we are merely circumventing the law.
I think David's record speaks for itself. I don't think there's any question about his leadership or his ability.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've talked to many, many state employees and probably everybody around this table. And I didn't hear anybody say that Bronner had not done an outstanding job with this retirement program. Nobody. Not one person.
After the dust had settled, the Employees Board had rehired Bronner to his old job. The Teachers Board has not. In a separate meeting, the Teachers Board members agreed to appoint Bronner to a one-month term as Secretary-Treasurer while a search committee looks at other applicants. This is the first time the Teachers and the Employees Retirement Systems Boards have split on a Secretary-Treasurer, and as one board member put it, the first time that an internal power struggle has ever caused a problem. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
Personally, I know nothing about it. I have not talked to any member of the faculty who is part of this so-called protest. I have naturally read a little about it in the press and heard something about it, well, the media in general. And Lisa, that is about all I could contribute to the situation.
Dr. Bronner, a nationally recognized financial expert, informed me that in good conscience and in good faith he could not accept such a temporary appointment because the financial world would interpret the board's action as meaning he does not enjoy the full confidence of the board. Dr. Bronner said that without such a vote of confidence, it would be impossible for him to effectively protect the investments of millions of dollars of our teachers. As of this moment, and until we appoint, with the millions of dollars available now for investment at a high rate of interest, we cannot make those investments.
Do you see any possible motive why they didn't accept it?
Well, as I pointed out to the Board of Control this morning, when the
The Carver Wolverines took control of the game from the very first snap of the ball. David Honeycutt proved Carver would be able to run the ball against St. Jude at will. It was Honeycutt who capped the 9-play, 75-yard drive with this 1-yard plunge. 2-point conversion made it 8-0. Tim Bethea was the next to make it into the end zone, another 1-yard drive, making it 14-0. The Wolverine defense joined in the fun. Terrell Thomas intercepts this rookie Bruce pass and returns it to the Pirate 20-yard line. Wolverine running back Glenn Ferris was the next to join the scoring parade, taking it across from the 6-yard line. That made the score 20-0. David Honeycutt added another touchdown before the half, making it 28-0 at intermission. It looked like the Pirates were using a turnstile defense tonight. The linemen would turn, allowing Carver runners to move the ball at will. However, you have to grade St. Jude an E for effort tonight. The team played with pride in the second half, but simply could not contain the larger 4A school. The game got out of hand. Final score, Carver 49, St. Jude nothing. Fred Albers, WSFA TV Sports. Lanier fumbles, Jeff Davis recovers. That was the story of tonight's ball game. Lanier fumbled 3 times in the first half, each fumble resulting in a volunteer touchdown. Willie May was the first to take the ball across the goal line. This 6-yard run and the point after made it 7-0 Volunteers. Jeff Davis added a field goal to make it 10-0. Then on the ensuing kickoff, Lanier fumbled again with Mike Zambezi recovering the ball. Volunteer quarterback Chuck Mullins has been throwing the ball quite well this year. He put this one into the arms of Woody Trotman. The Poets' passing game was not as effective. Mike Zambezi intercepts the shuttle pass, once again setting up a Volunteer score. Curtis Stewart got the honors this time with a 15-yard ramble. Volunteers led at half 23-0. They went on to score 6 more points in the second half. Jeff Davis defeats Lanier 29-0. Fred Albers, WSFA TV Sports.